doctor, my medicine, my hope for tomorrow, my sunshine on a cloudy day is he.
That just hit your spirit. I just was caught in the moment there. That was a sneak peek from the stage work, All I Can Do. And when many people think of opera, we don't often think of folks in the brown and black community. It's especially why we're so excited to highlight our next guest. She's a true opera legend, Dr. Sharon J Willis. She's performed in front of Queen Victoria and several U.S. presidents. She's also the first woman to have founded an opera company, and she's composed dozens of operas and plays. Dr. Sharon J Willis, Americolor Opera Alliance Executive Director, all the hyphenates joining us now on Start Your Day. I love it. Dr. Willis, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me this morning, both of you.
Your voice right there, so powerful. I can imagine what it's like live in that room. Tell us how you're able to capture some of the younger audiences who may not be into opera or classical music, may not be exposed to that right now.
My approach to classical music is twofold. One thing is to preserve the African-American culture and history within the American experience. And I don't think that opera is solely just European. I just use it as a way of capturing our story. And there's so many classically trained African-American singers that don't get an opportunity to use their voices. And that platform, Americolor Opera, is a very valuable platform for them to do so.
And we're happy that you're giving it to it, because blacks have been influential in the opera world for many years. A young lady behind you, Leontine Price, of course, is one of the more well-known ones. Marian Anderson, people know about them. But do you think the world of opera gets enough recognition, especially in our community?
Absolutely not. And I think some of it is a turnoff because most of the time when we hear opera, of course, it's in a foreign language. We don't understand it. We don't relate to it. We don't relate to the stories of the white powdered wigs or stories about people that don't relate to us. But one of the things that I do is my operas aren't typical, and I didn't want them to be, or I would not have a unique approach to opera. I write about figures like Madam C.J. Walker, or Alonzo Franklin Herndon, who was born a slave but ended up being a millionaire cutting white folks' hair at 66 Peachtree Street. Those are stories worth telling. Or about Joseph Philippe La Mercier La Roche, who was the only black passenger on the ill-fated Titanic. A lot of people don't know that. They think about Jack and Rose in the movie, which was fictitious. And the real story of a love story where he sacrifices himself to make sure his wife and children get on a lifeboat and he's never heard of or seen again. Those are stories that interest people. I even write things about science or medical things like breast cancer in the Black community. Anything that is relevant to us is a story to tell. And so that's my emphasis there.
And I'm curious, how did you step into this? Because for some, I imagine it would be exposure. It would be, maybe you have an aunt or someone who introduces you to it, takes you to an opera, or they sing. Who were some of your biggest influences? How did you end up here?
As a child I grew up in Atlanta, even though I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. My life in Vine City began when I was about 11 years old, going to English Avenue. And one of my teachers, Miss Ina Martin, she took us to see Peter and the Wolf down at Symphony Hall. And so I was in the choir. And then when I got to Washington High School, my teacher, Mr. William Revere, a great choral teacher, gave me the life of wanting to and the desire to be a musician. And of course, when I got to Clark College, I met my opera teacher. She was Cecily Evelyn Marie Reeves Beasley, and she was the first woman that I saw with a doctorate degree, and I thought, I'm going to get one of those.
I love it.
And in the late 60s, early 70s, she was my role model, and she had been in New York, and she had graduated from Juilliard. She was an exceptional mezzo-soprano, and I became one of her best vocal students. And she introduced me to singing the opera and Porgy and Bess and learning different roles. And although I was a pianist and then I became a soprano, it was difficult entering opera because every story I heard was very discouraging. The only success story I knew of was Leontine Price and Marian Anderson. But it made me, in my research, when I began my studies with pursuing a master's degree, my emphasis was who else is out there singing and doing classical music. And I found the story of Ciceretta Joyner Jones, who was the first, what I would call African American diva, who had almost a 30-year career singing classical music. No, she didn't get to the Met, even though it was purported that she was offered a contract. But when a white patron heard about it, they said, we will not support this company if you let any Black singer sing a role, even though the role was Aida, about a Black princess. She couldn't play
Oh,
that role.
wow.
That would wait until Leontine Price would play that role. And Marian Anderson, of course, in 1955. But Ciceretta, she sang before 4 presidents of this country. She sang before Queen Victoria. She heads of states everywhere, but could not get that respect in this country, having to sleep in train cars because hotels were off limits to her. And the only thing she could do were they put these vaudeville shows together. And at the end of the show, it was the operatic kaleidoscope, which she starred in, and she dressed up in these extravagant costumes. And then she would play these parts that she couldn't play anywhere else. So my hat was off to her, and I was hooked from that point to find and to continue to discover who these artists that we stand on their shoulders, who were they? And that's part of my drive.
And look at where it's taken you. Like we mentioned, you sang for presidents. You've been in front of the Queen. Now you have the first woman to have founded an opera company. Yeah, that's amazing. We have to applaud you for that. But I want to ask you about, like, there are young ladies out there, young Black women or men that may think about getting into opera. They can sing. We know a lot of people can sing. Whitney Houston can sing. Patti LaBelle can sing. But when you're an opera singer, you got to know how to sing. I mean, it's a deeper type. It comes from within. So is that something that's innate, or is that something that somebody like a Whitney Houston would have to train to do? How does that work to become an opera singer?
First of all, there is a natural talent there, but let me go back to correct something. I did not sing before royalty. It was Ciceretta Jones and other opera singers that I researched that did that. I am the only woman to have founded an opera company and been its principal composer. I have composed, in fact, I have just finished my 16th opera called Ciceretta in her honor. But going back to your question, there has to be some natural talent there. And I have had many classically trained singers that come through, and many of them opt not to sing opera, even after they have shown me and demonstrated this beautiful instrument that you actually have to cultivate. You really do. Because the average opera singer takes about 15 years to really get that instrument together. And when they become so discouraged that they can't get parts, they go back to singing things that they can get R&B, pop music. That's what they do.
It's amazing.
You know, I think what you're doing is so powerful, and what I love is that you have tied not just the music, but to the stories that are often not told, the stories that we don't know about, that need exposure, and done it in such a creative way. Tell us what's next for your opera company.
I am preparing to do, COVID has really struck us dumb. I mean, our voices have been silent for the most part, except for video platforms. But next year, we're going to perform again, opening with African American voices, which is not an opera. My opera company just doesn't do operas. We do tributes to civil rights leaders such as C.T. Vivian. We have performed at 2 of his birthdays. We have done memorials for musicians in Atlanta who have passed. We do all types of special presentations that most opera companies won't do. They don't do that, but we do that. And so we actually are really tied into the community. And so next year, not only will we do that, but we have plans of doing Pink Lady. That's the opera about breast cancer, trying to encourage, especially women in the African American community, to go forth and take care of themselves. And in that opera, we always have a platform or a panel of medical professionals who actually come on board to give a discussion to encourage women to go forth and try to take care of themselves. And so that's part of that. It's not just entertainment for entertainment or art's sake. I have a mission beyond just that singing. That's part of the platform and using these classical singers. And I should also say, it's not just the classical singers. I incorporate jazz singers, gospel singers. It doesn't matter what it is. The operas that I write have a lot of dialogue and script, so it reminds you of a musical. And there are times where if I need the blues singer to make a point, then the blues singer is on the stage. If the classical singer, the blues singer, the jazz singer are comfortable on my platform.
Well, if you need the car singer, Bofta is your girl. I'm telling you, because Bofta is ready to go.
Yes, I am. Don't let me do it here.
Ready to go.
Start your
right
day,
in that
Mike.
car.
He's going to put the ear things in her ear, you know.
This warm up that voice right now. It's education, and it's also good energy, and it's entertainment, and we're here to support the Americolor Opera Alliance. Dr. Sharon J Willis, thank you so much for starting your day with us. You're welcome anytime right here on BNC.